On this episode, let's talk about using cock rings to increase your flaccid size and girth.
This is the Holistic Alpha Podcast, where you light up your life as a man on a foundation of sacred sexual power.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Mathis. Thanks for being here with me. It's another beautiful day to do the work. Keep stacking those bricks daily in your life. Let's talk about size. Let's talk about penis size and one way to increase both your flaccid size, which makes a difference for a couple of very important reasons, as well as eventually increasing your overall girth. Let's talk about size, a couple of broad strokes kind of things on size. First of all, get an actual picture for what your size actually is in comparison to others, if it matters to you. The best way to do that is there's a website called calcsd.info, calcsd.info. You can go in, you can read how to measure directly, you can put in your measurements, and you can see where you actually compare. Most likely you will compare better than you think you do. That's the experience for most guys that I've heard from anyway. The other thing, or another thing to think about in terms of size in general is, yes, it does matter because it probably matters to you in some way, shape, or form, and it probably matters to your partner. That doesn't mean that bigger is necessarily better. It doesn't mean that you're not big enough or anything like that. But yeah, fit can kind of matter, right? And it can affect the experience. Let's talk about flaccid size. Here's the thing with your flaccid size. Number one, it is a huge, huge thing for confidence. I've heard from countless guys, literally every guy I have talked to about this over the last 6 years now, a little over 6 years, actually. Thanks so much for those of you guys who have been watching and listening to the show for that long, by the way. Literally every guy I've talked to about this, flaccid size makes a difference, right? You walk in the bathroom, you see yourself in the mirror, you're with your partner sees you, your partner feels you in bed, whatever it is, your flaccid size makes a difference. It makes a big difference for confidence. The other reason your flaccid size makes a difference is it affects how much you need to gain to have an effective functional erection, right? So if your flaccid size is a smaller percentage of your erect size, you need to gain more in that moment to get hard enough to be having sex, right? Whereas if your flaccid size is higher, there's less that you need to gain in that moment, which what that ends up meaning, it ends up meaning that you can get harder or hard enough and stay hard enough easier when you're having sex. So even if your erect size hasn't actually changed, if you can change the baseline of your flaccid size, it'll affect your confidence, it'll affect your sexual experience for sure. Let's talk about one good way to increase both your flaccid size and your girth, including your erect girth, if you're consistent with it over time, and that is using cock rings. So there's different kinds of cock rings, penis rings, whatever you want to call it. You can get these on Amazon. You can get them all over the place. Lots of people have been using them for various reasons for a long time. Lots of people use them, of course, just to have sex, to either get harder or stay harder during sex. But when you use cock rings consistently, in a couple of different ways, which we're going to talk about 2 different ways to use these, but when you use it consistently, it will increase your flaccid size, I promise you, and it will also eventually, if you stick with it and you're consistent with it, because that's the only way anything really changes in our life is when we're consistent with it. If you're consistent with it, it'll change your erect girth over time too. And girth is a big thing. I think a lot of guys kind of default to length when they're thinking about size, but girth, when it comes to actually having sex, girth probably matters more than length does, at least in a lot of cases. So let's talk about the 2 different ways to use cock rings. Now, before we get quite there, what do I mean exactly by cock rings? Here's what I would recommend you use, and that is, I'll put a picture of a couple of different ones up, and that is the flexible silicone rings. So you can get these on Amazon. They're super cheap, $8 to $20 for a set of different sizes, so you can find the right size, which we'll talk about more in just a moment. But those silicone rings of different thicknesses, which again, we'll talk about more in a moment, silicone rings that stretch, that's going to be the safest thing. That's going to be the most effective thing as well. One super important thing to remember and to be aware of when it comes to all of this kind of stuff is more is not necessarily better. And that is absolutely true with using cock rings in this way. It's not like the more you use it and the harder you go with it and the harder it's squeezing, the more you're going to gain. That's not how it works. What we really want to do is we want to give our body a little bit of a stimulus, right? A little bit of a stimulus to induce a little bit of a response. So just like gaining muscle, you stimulate that muscle to grow, and then it grows. And if you overstimulate it, what are you going to do? You're going to injure it. You can do the same thing here. So whether it's your edging practice, it's using cock rings, it's whatever you're doing, all of life involves risk. That also applies to all of this stuff. Don't overdo it. Be smart. Listen to your body, right? So if you're having any kind of pain or discomfort that's giving you a sign that something should probably change for sure. When you're using cock rings, if you're having significant discoloring or it gets really cold, anything like that, that's telling you that you're probably overdoing it. So don't overdo it. You don't need to overdo it. You'll get better results if you don't overdo it. Here's the first way to use these, and that is during your edging practice. So if you use a cock ring during your edging practice, and I would recommend use it only for some of your sessions or for just part of your session as opposed to using it all the time, because it does change the experience, not in good or bad ways, but it changes it. So let's have the baseline experience in addition to that experience. So if you incorporate it either for part of your session every day if you want to, or just for some of your sessions, here's what that's going to do. Number one, it's going to change the experience of your edging session. It changes kind of the way that stimulation feels. It changes kind of your control. It might be more challenging, but it might also help you get to kind of deeper places, especially when it comes to keeping a relaxed root muscle. But when it comes to growing your flaccid size, growing your girth, what this is going to do is it's going to give it that little bit of stimulus, right? So when you're edging with a cock ring on, you're going to end up pushing a little bit beyond the hardness that you normally would be at. And that's going to give your body a little bit of stimulus to grow. So again, only a little bit. You want to find the right size with these things so that when you're in that erect state, it's not excessively squeezing. It's not causing any kind of crazy discoloration. It's just enough of a stimulus to move you beyond the level of hardness that you would normally be at. For edging, I would recommend using the really thin rings. Again, I'll put a picture up so you can see that, but the thin rings work best for that. So that's the first way to use these, is during your edging session. Very, very simple. Find a ring that fits when you're hard, and that's the thing to keep in mind as well, is you don't want to put a ring on that's like already constricting you when you're flaccid and then start to edge. It's going to be way too much, right? So you want to put a ring on that and find the right size that when you get hard, it's providing just that little bit of extra kind of squeezing to get you a little bit harder than you would normally be. That's the sweet spot where you're going to find the best results. That's also the sweet spot where you're going to have the least chance of doing too much. And most likely what's going to happen is if you do too much, it's going to start to affect your erections. You're going to start to have morning wood that's reduced, overall erections that are reduced. That's your first warning sign that maybe you're overdoing it. Let's talk about the second way to use cock rings, and that is for extended wear. So this is a little bit different. We're not, when we're wearing a cock ring for extended wear, you're not pushing your cock harder than it would normally be, right? So getting to that full level of hardness and then that little bit of extra. What this is about is it's about actually taking your flaccid size and keeping your flaccid size more for an extended period of time. For this, I definitely prefer the thicker rings. Again, I'll put a picture up. Very easy to find on Amazon. I'll put a couple links in the show notes for a couple that I've tried and have used and do use from Amazon. Very, very easy to find. The thicker rings work better for this extended wear. What do I mean by extended wear? Well, the way to do this that I would recommend it is after your edging session. If you have an edging session, let's say in the morning or midday, whenever it is, you have an edging session. After that, then wear a ring that just is enough to keep you kind of a little more full than your normal flaccid size would be. Again, finding the right fit is really, really important. It's probably going to take a little bit of testing and experimentation. But when you find the right fit, and I definitely find that those thicker rings work better for this extended wear, because otherwise it kind of like when you're flaccid, it'll end up kind of bunching up too much around the skin, and tissue is going to kind of bunch up too much around that thin ring. So if you're going to wear it for extended wear, get some of the wider ones. I don't like the wider ones for edging session, for an edging session, because they just get in the way too much. It's like too much material, right, that's covering tissue, but they definitely work better for extended wear. So for extended wear, maybe you have your edging session, you use the other ring maybe during your session, or you don't, and then after your session, then you put the thicker ring on and you wear it for a period of time. In the beginning, maybe that's for 20 minutes or half an hour, and then maybe you eventually wear it for an hour, and then maybe you eventually wear it for 2 hours, and you start to wear it for longer periods of time. Be very smart and listen to what your body is telling you. If your cock gets very, very cold, if it gets discolored, not good things, take it off. give it a break, or maybe you went too long and you need to dial it back a little bit and not overdo it. This has actually been the most effective way that I have found to change flaccid size and girth. More effective than gelking, more effective than pumping, more effective than any other kind of technique. If you want to just increase your flaccid size and also increase your girth, using cock rings is a very, very simple way to do it. It's also a very safe way to do it. People have been using cock rings and all kinds of, I mean, you can go online and find cock rings that are steel, right? I would not recommend that. So let's imagine you put a steel cock ring on when you're soft, and then you get really hard and you get so hard that it locks that blood flow in there and you can't get the ring off and you can't get the blood flow to go down. That does not sound appealing to me. Don't do things that are going to lead to you getting injured. But again, tons of people have used cock rings for a very, very long time. This particular benefit of using them is a big one. It's a big one. I promise you, I've heard from so many guys that I've worked with where it's eventually come up in conversation where some of them actually found their way to cock rings already and they've noticed that. Or I've also guided them there and they realize, oh, wow, actually my flaccid size, I'm like waking up in the morning, my flaccid size is bigger. I'm more confident when I look in the mirror. I'm more confident in front of my partner. That's a big thing. It's a big thing to affect your confidence. So don't think that size is just about your erect size. In a lot of cases, the size gains that will help you feel better and feel more confident about your body are actually the flaccid size. Cock rings are super good for that. So I would love to hear your experiences, your thoughts, your feedback. As always, thanks for sharing a few minutes with me and enjoying the view here in the Wasatch Mountains in Utah. Sending you guys all my best. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.